left this season, which is a lot. We've added 2 to our regular concert season, and we have 114 students currently enrolled in the program, and they represent 6 different West Virginia counties, and we have 1 student from Ohio and 1 comes from Virginia every week for rehearsals.
Every week? Wow, that's dedication. So tell me, are you the only conductor for the symphony?
No, we have actually several different groups. We're pretty much a training orchestra.
Okay.
And we start with very young string players, and I mean very young. Some of them are 5 and 6 years old.
Wow.
And they're part of Cadet Strings, and this year that's led by Sandra Gross. And then we have an intermediate string group that's led by Ian Jesse. I have the oldest and most mature bunch of musicians. And then we also have a wind ensemble that Dr. David Williams leads, and there's also a prep group for young wind players that Dave Williams also leads. So it's quite a big organization.
Wow. And you guys play locally, but you also travel, is that right?
We do. We
So
travel.
Tell us a
Fun
little bit about
places.
your travel.
Well, we've made 3 trips to Europe in the last 12 years. And the most recent one was this past summer, and we went to Slovakia and Hungary and Austria, a little side trip to Poland, and that's it, right?
And specifically to Charleston's sister city in Banská Bystrica, Slovakia, which was a real highlight of the trip. And the orchestra performed in 3 different cities. And so on this trip, not only did they get to be tourists and get to see new parts of the world and experience new cultures, they brought with them their gift of music and had to share that and got the experience of playing on the international stage to ovations and a really wonderful response from international crowds, which was a thrill.
Yeah, the people from Slovakia, the wonderful thing about that was the community was so welcoming to our students. I mean, it was wonderful. They had all these events planned for the kids, and it was pretty great, and the performance was wonderful. And we're going to reciprocate a little bit, but 10, I guess, people from that town are going to come to Charleston for Festival this year.
Oh, nice.
This is the first year the youth orchestra will play for Festival, and a young pianist from Slovakia will be the soloist with us as he was when we played there. So it looks very exciting for us for the next couple of months.
Well, we were talking earlier, and when you say you took the orchestra, that's quite a production. How many people made the trip?
We had 55 student musicians, and we had 34 parents and conductors and chaperones. So we had an entourage, a very large entourage of 89 people. 2
Yeah.
buses, lots of shipped instruments, and lots of music to keep track of, and we did it. We did it with...
And you've done it before. This wasn't the first trip.
Bob has made all 3 trips,
Yeah.
which is really exciting. This
Yeah,
was my
this is
first
the
trip.
3rd one, and by far this was actually the easiest. With more people, it actually was easier.
Good.
Yeah.
So with all the traveling and the practice and your guidance, what skills are the kids developing?
They learn a lot of things. A few of the students that we have and who stay in the program, some of them stay for a decade. They start when they're very young. They obviously learn some musical skills. They learn to play in an ensemble. They learn to listen to each other and to interact with each other and with whoever the conductor happens to be. They learn a lot about music, different styles of music, different genres of music. But I think probably the most important thing they learn is just self-discipline. Most of them will not be musicians. They'll probably, most of them, continue to play throughout their lives, but an awful lot of them turn into doctors and lawyers and things like that, and school teachers, and they learn how to bring out good things from inside themselves. That's probably, beyond anything else, the most important thing we do, is teach them that they're capable of doing this, but that it takes work, and they learn to do the work.
So with all that work, you have a concert coming up. May 5th, is that right?
Yes, Sunday, May 5th at 3 p.m. We perform at the Scottish Rite Temple, and it's exciting in that it's the spring concert where all the students have been working all year. They're the most nuanced in terms of playing together, and the repertoire always sounds the strongest for the spring concert. So we have all the students will be on stage, all the ensembles will get a chance to perform, and we have some wonderful repertoire on deck. What is the orchestra playing?
Well, the youth orchestra, which is the group I lead, we're playing Wagner's Overture to Die Meistersinger, which is just this wonderful romantic piece. And one of our students is the winner this year. Well, every year there's a student concerto competition winner, and this year it's Andrew Silverberg-Hassam. He's a violinist, and he's a senior at GW, I believe. And Andrew's going to play a piece by Pablo de Sarasate called Zigeunerweisen, which means gypsy airs. It's a very flashy piece for violin. And then we're playing William Tell Overture by Rossini.
So this is quite an honor for your GW senior to bet he's
There's
very
a lot of
excited.
competition for it, and they take it very seriously. And it's one, I've been with the youth orchestra now for almost 20 years. And it's amazing the level of growth in those 20 years from where we were when I started with the group to where it is now. And it's not all me by any means. The music education program in this county, especially string education, has just blossomed. And it's wonderful. It's an incredible resource that we've got here. The youth orchestra is not part of the school systems. We're an independent organization, but we benefit by the work that they do. And to hear how well somebody like Andrew can play is pretty amazing.
Okay. So you've been with them for 20 years. Where do you
Close.
see the next 20 years going?
Oh, who knows? I don't have a crystal ball. I can't answer that too easily. I hope it continues to grow. I hope the people in the county continue to support the music programs in the school systems, because that's where it begins and that's where it really grows. And then we add to that, and but it's not something we can do without the county.
Right.
So.
And it is very much a county participation, but you guys travel statewide, is that right?
We have, in the past, incorporated some run-out concerts as part of our annual repertoire. In fact, this year we had a run-out concert to Williamstown High School, and to play for about 650 students. And because we have such a large program and such a well-developed program, being the largest and oldest youth symphony in the state, we can showcase what students can move to become. I mean, we can be a model for other programs. So Williamstown does have a string program, but they have only 19 kids in their program. And so by hearing our students, they may be motivated. In fact, we did somewhat of a collaboration, and we allowed those kids to play with us on a piece, just to give them that sense of what it's like to play in a large orchestra. And some of those skills, as Bob said earlier, it's the skills that most businesses are looking for in terms of hiring. It's folks who are able to work well in a group, folks who are creative, folks who have self-discipline. And so the skills and the benefit of creating something beautiful together, it takes a lot of hard work. And if we can share that passion and that excitement to other parts of the state, that's definitely part of the mission of the board of directors of the Youth Symphony.
And once in a while we have young people who go on to do really amazing things. One of them, the music that played in the credits at the beginning of this show and that we'll play at the end of this show also was written, the music was written by a student named Matt Jackford, and Matt was in the youth orchestra 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6 years ago now. And he's gone off to college, he's in grad school in Texas right now. And it's a piece called Vandalia that he wrote for our tour last summer to Europe. And he came along and played in the orchestra and conducted one of the performances of his piece. And he's an amazingly talented young man, and a little bit of what he knows he learned from us. And one of the great things with Matt is Maestro Cooper and the West Virginia Symphony are going to play a new piece by Matt next year in the season, in the spring, I think. And it's based on some time that Matt spent in China. So it's a pretty amazing piece as well. He's an incredibly talented kid, and he's not the only one.
Oh, I love it when our hometown heroes do good. That's great. So we've talked about that you practice weekly, is that
Yes.
right? So that's a lot of dedication for these kids.
especially if you consider that many of them are taking private music lessons and also learning some school repertoire, the youth orchestra piece on top of that. It takes a special skill set and demands time. But we get together on Monday nights at Horace Mann Middle School. We are very appreciative. We've been there probably 5 years. They open their doors to us, and kids come in from soccer practice, kids come in from doing homework, and then they all get out their instruments and focus. And we have, of course, all 5 ensembles meet weekly for about an hour and a half to 2 hours. And amongst some laughs and some goofing off, there is some wonderful music making.
Yeah.
So if someone is watching and they have a friend or a child or a neighbor that's interested in the Youth Symphony, how would they find out more information, and how do auditions happen, that sort of thing?
First thing is go to our website,
Okay.
which is www.wvyouthsymphony.org.
Okay.
And it's on the screen, miraculously.
I love that.
There are guidelines there for how to audition for us. Our next set of auditions are in May.
Late May 28th, 29th, and 30th.
Okay.
And they just call us or email
Call
us.
us and schedule an audition time. We do have some required scales and some pieces required of especially the older children, and we will hold those auditions and get word out to those students. But what we'd like to do is audition kids in the spring when they are at their peak. If we audition at the end of summer, maybe they're not quite so practiced up. So we audition now for next season's ensembles.
And
the
this
way
is
it
all
works.
instruments, or are there
All
certain-
instruments.
All instruments.
We have a need for everything, maybe a special need for cellos and basses.
Certainly basses, that's for sure, string players in general. But winds and brass too. I mean, we're looking for the strongest young players that we can find and who want to actually have the experience of playing in an orchestra. It's very different from playing in a band, and I don't know that any schools in the area have a regular orchestra with a full complement of winds and brass. So we're, as far as I know, pretty much the only game in town, and luckily it's good. This is a good group, and it's a lot of fun. And we make sure they learn something.
Right. So you have a concert coming up May 5th. How do we get tickets?
Well, we do tickets at the door. So if you come that day, concert begins at 3 p.m. and
At the Scottish Rite?
Scottish Rite Temple.
Okay.
And we just invite all to come. I think you'll be very surprised by the caliber of the music. Most people come away just delighted by the performances of our students.
And all the groups perform. It's not just the oldest group. Every group performs, and it's kind of wonderful to see these little itty-bitty kids really make music.
Something to mark on your calendar for sure. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you for tuning in to watch Community Connections. We hope you join us again next time. Goodbye. Hi, my name is Jane Powell. Welcome to Community Connections, brought to you by the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation. Today, we're meeting with Becky Supperly, President and CEO of the Greater Kanawha Valley Foundation. Welcome, Becky.
Well, thank you, Jane. It's great to be here.
So, let's get started. Tell me a little bit about the foundation.
Well, the foundation is a community foundation, and by that it's a little different than some of the other types of foundations that most people are familiar with. By that, I mean it is here because so many members of our community have made contributions to support charitable causes. And the foundation aggregates all those and then distributes the money either for the donor or on a competitive grant basis to nonprofits in a 6-county region up and down the Kanawha Valley.
Wow.
And it was founded, we celebrated our 50th anniversary last year, so we're a mature foundation and have close to, well, let's see, I guess it's almost over $190 million in assets. So that gives you some sense of the generous donors throughout this community.
Very